With all those bodyguards swarming him, Daphne knew Charlie was screwed. Not that she felt sorry for him. She hadn't seen what started it, but she had seen Charlie chase a guy into the street, right into the path of a car that shattered both his arms. That alone was brutal. But instead of backing down, Charlie had picked a fight with the son of their host. The guy clearly had a death wish. Damon's patience had run out. This was taking too long. He barked at his men. Get him! Break him until he can't stand. Then toss him in a dumpster with this other piece of trash at my feet. The dozen or so bodyguards had been coiled around Charlie, just waiting for the command. The second Damon gave it, they lunged. It was a feeding frenzy, each man scrambling to land the first blow. Against one guy, they knew it would be over in seconds. Anyone who hung back would miss their chance to impress the young master. Watching the circle of men swallow Charlie whole, Damon felt a sneer tug at his lips. Some punk, he thought, picking a fight with me in the middle of downtown. He's asking for a death sentence. It was a shame, really. With so many witnesses, he, as the Cochrane heir, couldn't get his own hands dirty. Otherwise, he would have loved to take the guy apart himself. Damon expected to see Charlie turned into a bloody pulp in seconds. What he didn't expect was the sound of his own men screaming, not in victory, but in agony. A moment later, bodies started flying out from the tight circle of fighters, one after another, crashing hard onto the pavement. What the? My arm! Someone shouted. This guy, he's not human! Along with the pained cries, several more men were thrown from the brawl. Charlie grabbed one bodyguard by the neck and hurled him through the air. The man landed with a sickening thud right at Damon's feet, making him stumble back in shock. The guard struggled to lift his head, blood gushing from a gash on his forehead. He looked up at Damon, his eyes wide with pain, and stammered, "Boss!" A fine spray of blood erupted from his mouth, splattering all over Damon's expensive white pants and shoes, staining them crimson. Damon scrambled back in terror. His bodyguard's voice was a choked whisper. "Boss, that guy, he's a monster." With that, he collapsed, out cold. Damon's mind went blank, zapped with shock. What just happened? These were the best fighters money could buy, absolute experts. How could one of them go down like he was nothing? Before he could process it, the fight was over. Charlie moved through the rest of his men with brutal efficiency. The so-called masters dropped one after another, like bowling pins in a perfect strike. And then, silence. The only two people left standing were Charlie and Damon. From the car, Ashton and Daphne stared, completely stunned. Ashton swallowed hard. Is this guy for real? He's insane. Daphne was speechless for a beat, then finally let out a breath. He's the real deal, all right. I completely underestimated him. With the bodyguards down, Charlie started toward Damon. Damon trembled, his legs turning to jelly. He tried to run, to do anything, but they wouldn't listen. A cold certainty washed over him. There was no escaping this guy. He could only stammer, his voice shaking. "What do you want?" "I'm a Cochrane, the youngest son." Charlie closed the distance, his hand flashing out in a sharp slap that sent Damon's head snapping to the side. "I don't give a damn what family you're from," he said, his voice ice cold. "Right now, you and I are going to talk about the 2 arms you owe me." Damon stumbled back, the sting of the slap echoing in his ears. No one had ever hit him, ever. He was a Cochrane, treated like a prince his whole life. To be slapped like this, in the middle of the street, was a humiliation he couldn't process. Clutching his throbbing cheek, Damon's shock curdled into rage. "You bastard!" he screamed, his voice cracking. "How dare you hit me? You're dead, you hear me? Dead!" Charlie reached out and patted the same cheek, a slow, condescending motion. "Just a taste," he said, his voice dangerously calm. "Like I said, 2 arms." He didn't waste another word. Charlie's hand shot out, grabbing Damon's right wrist. With a sickeningly sharp twist, he broke it. A wet crack echoed in the quiet street. An inhuman shriek tore from Damon's throat as white-hot agony shot up his arm. Tears streamed down his face. "My arm!" he wailed, the words dissolving into a gasping sob. "It hurts! God, it hurts!" Charlie watched, completely unfazed. "That's 1, he stated as if ticking an item off a list. "You still owe me another. Give me your left hand." Racked with pain, Damon stared up at him, his face ashen. The chilling reality finally hit him. This wasn't a threat. Charlie wasn't bluffing. Panic shattered what was left of his pride. Damon's knees buckled and he collapsed, sobbing. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, man. It was my fault, okay? I shouldn't have messed with you. Please, forgive me. Don't take my other arm, please. I'm begging you." Charlie looked down at him, his expression pure ice. We're all adults here. You need to own what you did, not grovel on the ground begging for mercy. He leaned in closer. You really think begging is going to get you out of this? Damon's blood ran cold. He's really going to do it, he thought, panic clawing at his throat. He's going to break my other arm. The thought was quickly followed by an even more terrifying one. What if he just kills me? The terror burst out of him in a fresh wave of sobs. I'll pay you, sir, he pleaded, scrambling for the only solution he knew. $100 million. Just say the word and it's yours. Charlie just shook his head. Don't waste your breath. Even if you offered me $100 billion, you're not keeping that arm. Back in the car, Daphne couldn't take it anymore. Ashton, she said, her voice tight, we can't just sit here. This is wrong. What? Ashton shot back, his eyes wide. Are you insane? Did you not just see what he did? He could kill you. I have to try and reason with him, Daphne insisted. Maybe I can talk him down. We can't just watch him hurt Damon like this. We can't. No, it's not our problem. Our safety comes first, Ashton argued, reaching for her. But he was too late. Daphne had already thrown open the door and stepped out onto the street. Charlie didn't so much as flinch, and Damon knew it was over. He was completely out of moves. Even if he called his family for backup, they'd never make it in time. Just as Damon's desperation peaked, the door of the car beside his swung open. Daphne stepped out. Sir, he said to Charlie, you need to know when to back off. Charlie hadn't expected anyone to stick up for Damon. He frowned at her. Funny, he said, his voice cold. Why are you stepping in for this punk? Daphne said flatly, I'm not helping him. I'm just telling you not to take this too far. You should always leave yourself an out. Charlie smirked. A minute ago, he sent a dozen guys to jump me. Why didn't you get out then and tell him to be the bigger person? Charlie's question caught her off guard. The truth was, the thought had crossed her mind. If Charlie couldn't handle himself, if his life was actually in danger, she would have stepped in to stop Damon. But she knew there was no way he'd believe that now. So she just said, a dozen guys tried to jump you, and you don't have a scratch on you, right? Since you're fine, why can't you just cut the guy some slack? Charlie sneered. He wasn't going to cut me any slack. Why should I give him any? Daphne retorted. Let's be reasonable. You made the first mistake here. This is a public road, not your personal racetrack. Chasing someone through traffic is just wrong, and because you were chasing him, he ended up getting hit by this car. Charlie's lips curved into a humorless smile. Then let me ask you, do you have any idea why I was chasing him? I don't know, and I don't want to know, Daphne said, her voice sharp. It doesn't matter. Chasing someone down a busy street is reckless, plain and simple. She pressed on. You were in the wrong from the start, and then you attacked this man for no reason. How is any of that justified? Charlie snorted. I don't get you. You don't seem like a bad person, so why are you defending a couple of scumbags? Scumbags? Daphne shot back. Fine. Then you tell me why you chased one of these so-called scumbags into a car crash and injured the other one. A sneer crossed Charlie's face. You know, you're incredibly self-righteous and superficial. Daphne's anger flared. What did you just call me? Superficial? Charlie nodded. Yes, very. After a beat, he elaborated. Superficial people only see what's right in front of them. Forget about the monster in that car wreck for a second. Let's just talk about this guy. He gets out of his car, starts posturing, and sends his goons to jump me. You think he's the innocent one here? If I couldn't handle myself, his bodyguards would have beaten me to death on the spot. Daphne was fuming, her chest heaving. I just think you could show some mercy. You already broke his arm. Isn't that enough? Not enough, Charlie said flatly. I told you, I'm taking both. You! Daphne sputtered, speechless. She couldn't believe how utterly unbending he was. Deep down, she knew Damon had this coming. Still, she had to hope she could appeal to the guy's better nature, talk him out of actually breaking both of Damon's arms. Daphne might have been young, but with an elite education, she was a true business prodigy. Every move was a calculation. Take this situation, for example. She was here representing the Simpson family to negotiate a partnership with the Cochrans. But before they'd even talked business, Damon had been beaten to a pulp. If she just stood by and did nothing, it would look bad. Not only would she seem spineless, but it could jeopardize the entire negotiation before it even started. So she had to step in. She'd appeal to his emotions, his logic, his self-interest, anything that might work. Even if it was pointless and the guy went ahead and crippled Damon anyway, at least she could say she tried. It would clear her conscience and prove her worth to the Cochran family. The best case scenario, of course, was that he'd actually listen, show her some respect, and go easy on Damon. That way, she'd not only save face, but the Cochrans would owe her one. When it came time to hammer out the details of their partnership, she could use that favor as leverage to squeeze more concessions out of them and lock in a better deal for her family. But she never expected him to be this hostile. The look on his face, the way he stood, it was clear he was dead set on hurting Damon. So she swallowed her anger and began. Sir, I'm from Eastcliff. Before she could finish, Charlie cut her off, his voice sharp with annoyance. Look, lady, you don't need to give me your resume. I don't want to know who you are, and don't even think about using your name to pressure me. Because even if you were some big shot kingpin, I wouldn't give you the time of day on this. Are we clear? Daphne was floored. Growing up, no one had ever dared to speak to her that way. She was used to a world of respect and flattery. But this guy, he hadn't even let her finish her sentence. His utter dismissiveness made her blood boil. She scoffed, her voice sharp with anger. This is my business now. If you so much as touch him again, I swear you will live to regret it. Charlie smirked. Make me regret it? Damn right, she shot back, her confidence absolute. The instant the words left her mouth, a sickening crack echoed beside her, followed by Damon's agonized scream. Her head snapped toward Damon just in time to see Charlie twist his left arm. Now both limbs hung at his sides, dangling as he howled in agony. Daphne glared at Charlie, shouting, "What the hell is wrong with you? Are you just trying to pick a fight with me?" Charlie just shook his head. Don't flatter yourself. I wouldn't know you from a hole in the wall. Why would I want to start something with you? As far as I'm concerned, you're not even here. With that, Charlie was done with them. He didn't spare either of them another glance as he walked over to where the other guy was still lying out on the pavement. He reached into the man's pocket, pulled out a wad of cash, and went over to the street performer. Here, he said, pressing the money into her hand. Take this, and maybe stay off the streets for a while. Don't come back out here to play. Tears streamed down the girl's face. I'm so sorry, she whimpered, her voice thick with gratitude. I caused you so much trouble. Charlie shook his head. You just have to look out for yourself in a foreign country. He gave her a final nod. I'm leaving now. With that, he turned and walked away from the scene without a backward glance. Daphne was shaking with rage, her fists clenched so tight her knuckles were white. Staring at his retreating back, she screamed, "You bastard! Get back here!" Charlie didn't even break his stride, completely ignoring the sound of Daphne's angry shouts behind him. No one had ever disrespected her like that, and she was absolutely furious. Almost every girl from a wealthy Eastcliff family had an ego, and Daphne was no exception. Back home, she was considered top tier, even among the richest daughters in the country. To say her self-esteem and her sense of entitlement were a little higher than average would be putting it mildly. So for Charlie to just blow her off like that, without even a single glance back, made her blood boil. But deep down, she knew she was no match for him. And here, in Ottawa, she was on unfamiliar turf. All she could do was stand there and fume. While Daphne was seething, Damon shuffled over to her and the young singer, his broken arms hanging uselessly at his sides. He loomed over the singer, his expression thunderous. Spit it out, he snarled. Who was that guy? What's his name? Where does he live? What's his deal? The girl flinched, her voice trembling. I don't know him. Bullshit, Damon roared. You think I'm an idiot? You don't know him? You tell me the truth right now, or I swear to God, I'll kill you. Daphne shot him a cold glare. Damon, threatening a terrified girl isn't exactly a good look, is it? Her voice seemed to snap him back to his senses. He visibly reined in his rage, gritting his teeth. Daphne, you saw what happened, he growled. That man broke both my arms. Daphne's expression didn't change. Yes, I saw it. He's the one who broke your arms. What does that have to do with her? Why don't you try picking on someone your own size? Besides, your arms will heal in a few months with some physical therapy and rest. Is it really worth throwing a tantrum and losing what little class you have left? No class, Damon sputtered, his face flushing with anger. She's obviously with him. Once she tells me what I need to know, I'll leave her alone. Daphne's eyes narrowed. She already told you she doesn't know him. Are you deaf? Damon shot back. And how do we know she's not lying? Daphne's voice dropped, turning icy. Whether she's lying or not is none of your business. If you want information, find another way to get it. But you don't get to stand here and threaten her. Did you already forget the lesson you learned 5 minutes ago? Damon's face went slack, then twisted into an ugly grimace. He knew exactly what she was doing, throwing his own arrogance back in his face. The only reason he was in this mess, the only reason his arms were shattered, was because he'd run his mouth and sicked his bodyguards on that guy. Humiliation washed over him. But what could he do? For one, Daphne's family, the Simpsons, was way more powerful than his. For another, he was actually trying to get on her good side, so he had no choice but to swallow his pride and back down. With Damon silenced, Daphne turned her attention to the singer. You said you don't know him, so why did he step in? I saw him take money from the guy who got hit by the car. Was that about you? The singer looked at her earnestly. You have to understand, that man is a good person. I was just out here, playing my guitar and singing, and nobody was even looking my way. Then that man, he gave me $100,000. But right after, these thugs showed up. They snatched the money, grabbed my guitar, and said I had to go with them. They wanted to take me out drinking, and he's the one who saved me. Daphne frowned. So the one who got hit by the car, he was one of the thugs? Yeah, the girl said, nodding. They're all from a local gang. That guy saw what was happening and took down a couple of the thugs. Then one of them, a renegade the car had clipped, pulled a knife and held it to my throat. The other guy had to step in for me. He knocked the knife out of his hand and saved my life. Then the thug tried to make a run for it, and the guy chased him. That's when he got hit by the car. You saw the rest. Daphne could only stare. She never would have expected this. The rude, aggressive guy from before was actually trying to save an innocent girl from a bunch of thugs. She could only imagine what would have happened if he hadn't stepped in. Those thugs would have hurt her, or worse. No wonder he was so brutal. If it were her, she'd want to tear them apart too. Damon was still screaming at the other man, his bodyguards closing in to surround him. And he's the one who started all this, Daphne thought. Suddenly, 2 broken arms didn't seem like nearly enough. In an instant, all of Daphne's anger toward the man evaporated. She turned back to the girl. Do you know who those guys were? What gang? The girl answered immediately. They're from the Maple Crest crew. They're the biggest gang in the Maple Crest district. The Maple Crest crew? Daphne's eyes snapped to Damon, her voice dropping to an icy calm. That's one of the Cochran family's fronts, isn't it? Your people, robbing a kid on the street and trying to drag her off? That's a new low, even for you. Damon looked stunned, a flush of embarrassment creeping up his neck. Miss Simpson, where would you hear a rumor like that? The Cochran family has nothing to do with the Maple Crest crew. Daphne snorted. Don't play dumb with me, Mr. Cochran. I did my homework. The Cochran family got its start in the criminal underworld. You just cleaned things up, went legit, and scrubbed your history right before it was too late. A very successful transformation, wasn't it? She leaned in, her voice low. I know over half the gangs in Ottawa and the surrounding area are under your family's thumb, but you're smart about it. You don't have Cochrans running them directly. You use distant relatives with different last names to keep your hands clean, right? Damon shifted uncomfortably. Well, it's true that some distant relatives of ours manage those groups, but the Cochran family itself hasn't been involved in that business for a very long time. Daphne let out a cold laugh. We're both adults here, so don't treat me like an idiot. The only reason any of this happened today, the only reason your arm is shattered, is because of your people. This is the price you pay for letting your thugs run wild. Damon's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. He wanted to argue, but he knew she had him cornered. Daphne gestured to the girl. She has nothing to do with this. I expect you to leave her alone. Can I get your word on that? Damon knew he was beat. He couldn't afford to make an enemy of Daphne. Not now. He gave a defeated nod. You have my word. I'll make sure no one ever bothers her again. Damon was practically vibrating with rage. He'd counted on getting a lead on the guy from this girl, but it turned out she didn't even know him. His gut told him the girl was telling the truth, which meant tracking the bastard down to settle the score wasn't going to be easy. But right now, the more pressing issue was getting his family to the hotel to take him, Daphne, and Ashton to a hospital. Daphne completely ignored Damon and his uselessly dangling arms. Instead, she helped the American girl pack up her guitar before handing her a business card. Her tone was dead serious. Listen, if anyone ever messes with you like this again, you call me. Right away, she said. And give my number to someone you trust completely. If you're ever in trouble and can't make the call yourself, have them do it for you. Of course, Daphne's words were aimed squarely at Damon. She wouldn't be in Canada forever, and what if he decided to come after this girl for revenge once she was gone? This was her way of making him think twice, and with that, he wouldn't dare touch her. The Simpson family's power was on a whole other level than the Cochrans. Besides, the Cochrans were desperate to partner with them, and she'd just drawn a line in the sand. If Damon crossed it, he wouldn't just be defiant, he'd be a complete idiot. Damon got the message loud and clear. He was seething, but he had no choice but to swallow his pride. No matter how much it burned, he had to take it. He found one of his guys who was still functional enough to use a phone and snarled at him to call his family, now. 10 minutes later, a convoy of dozens of cars belonging to the Cochran family screeched to a halt outside. Leading the charge was the head of the family himself, Damon's father, Arlo Cochran. Before Arlo even stepped out of his car, the carnage in front of him left him speechless. More than a dozen of his best bodyguards were staggering around the street, blocking traffic. His own son's face was so swollen on one side that it was barely recognizable. Even worse, both of his arms were completely limp, dangling uselessly at his sides. With a grim expression, he first approached Daphne and Ashton to apologize profusely, then arranged for them and their entourage to be escorted back to their hotel. Once the Simpsons were taken care of, he ordered his men to get his son and the rest of the wounded into the cars and to the nearest hospital. On the way, Arlo carefully pressed Damon for the full story. After listening, he was completely floored. A moment later, he slammed his fist on the car's center console. Some damn foreigner thinks he can waltz in here, put my son in the hospital, and take out a dozen of my men? He roared. This is a slap in the face to the entire Cochran name. Damon was just as livid. Dad, you find that man, he choked out. You find him, and kill him. Avenge me. Arlo nodded, his voice turning ice cold. Don't worry. I'll put the word out on the street. My people will track him down. Damon couldn't wait. Dad, when you find him, I'm killing him myself. You'll do it personally? Arlo asked, frowning. And how do you plan on doing that? Damon's bravado cracked, and his eyes welled up with tears. Then I'll have someone strap a knife to my boot. I don't care. I have to be the one to do it. Arlo Cochran nodded. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, he said. We still have the Simpsons to deal with. If we just roll into Ottawa and kill him, it'll sour the whole deal. A look of pure panic flashed across Damon's face. Dad, are you just going to let that bastard walk? Arlo's voice was cold as ice. Don't worry. He's not getting away with anything. I'll have my people find him. Our best rangers will put a tail on him, shadow his every move. Once the deal with the Simpsons is done, we'll snatch him up, bring him back to Ottawa on the quiet, and you can finish him off yourself. Relief washed over Damon. He could stomach waiting, as long as it was for the family's business. But letting Charlie walk? Unthinkable. His father's words were all the reassurance he needed. As long as he was the one to kill Charlie, he could wait a few more days. Besides, what chance did some random guy stand against their top rangers? None. After leaving the area near the University of Ottawa, Charlie headed straight for Jude's house. He had no idea that at that very moment he was blowing up on a video app all across Canada. A bystander had filmed the whole confrontation, Charlie dismantling Damon and his crew, and had uploaded it online. And now, all of Canada was losing its mind. One guy taking down nearly 20 people single-handedly? It was insane. But what was even more unbelievable was who he'd done it to. Damon Cochran, right on the streets of Ottawa. Everyone in Canada knew who Damon was. One of the country's most infamous heirs getting beaten to a pulp in broad daylight? It was easily the most explosive piece of news to hit the country in years. The video was shot late at night on a crappy phone camera, so you could barely make out Charlie's and Damon's faces. The quality was on par with a grainy, long-lens paparazzi shot of some celebrity caught in the dark. Still, the footage was clear enough for anyone in Canada to instantly recognize Damon. But since no one in the country had a clue who Charlie was, his identity was a complete mystery. Still, if you knew Charlie even a little, you'd know it was him. Ronan Gibbs was sitting in his study, a premium cigar smoldering in one hand and a glass of bourbon in the other. He was still stewing over the Simpsons meeting with the Cochrans, not to mention worried sick about Charlie. Just then, Howard burst into the room without knocking, his face pale with urgency. Chairman, something big just happened. Ronan snapped. What the hell could be so important that you come flying in here like this? Get a hold of yourself. Howard didn't waste time explaining. He just shoved the phone at him and hit play. You need to see this, he said, his voice tight. It's about the Cochrans. Big news from the Cochran family? Ronan's eyes widened. Damn it, what big news? Did the Simpsons already announce they're partnering with them? No way. They just landed in Ottawa. How could they decide that fast? Are you telling me those bastards aren't even going to give us a meeting? Howard was quick to correct him. It's not that, sir. It's Damon Cochran. Someone broke his arms out on the street. Damon's arms were broken? Ronan gasped. Who the hell did it? Ronan racked his brain. Only a handful of people in the city would have the balls to mess with Damon. Even he would think twice before pulling a stunt like that. After all, the gap between the Gibbs and Cochran families wasn't that wide. Making a move on a Cochran was basically declaring war on the whole family. Besides his own father, Ronan couldn't think of a single person who dared to go after Damon. He snatched Howard's phone, needing to see just who had the nerve. The moment the screen lit up, a tremor of pure fear shot through him. His fingers went slack. The cigar dropped from his lips, landing right on his thigh and instantly searing a hole through the expensive fabric of his custom suit. Ronan didn't even feel the burn. He just snatched the smoldering cigar, tossed it aside, and jabbed a trembling finger at the screen. Isn't that Charlie? He stammered. He'd only met Charlie once, but the man's face was burned into his memory. Maybe that was the power of pure hatred. After all, that face didn't just represent his own humiliation. It represented a staggering loss of $4.5 billion. Ronan would know that face even if it were burned to ash. As he watched the video, Charlie effortlessly dismantled more than a dozen of Damon's bodyguards before snapping both his arms. An ice-cold dread washed over him. It was only then that he truly grasped just how dangerous Charlie was. Last time, the man had taken out 2 of his guys. This time, he'd wiped out a dozen of Damon's in one clean sweep. With that kind of power, not even a team of Spec Ops soldiers would stand a chance. Beneath the shock, a wave of cold relief washed over him. Thank God he hadn't truly pissed Charlie off that day. If he had, with a temper like that, hell, he wouldn't have just been beaten half to death. Damon was young, resilient. He'd probably bounce back. But Ronan knew he was too old for that kind of punishment. If that had been him, Charlie would have put him in the ground. But as the raw fear subsided, something else took its place. A dark, satisfying smugness. He watched the clip of Damon screaming, a slow smile spreading across his lips. He reached out, dragged the progress bar back to the beginning, and played the whole thing again. The smile on his face only grew wider. Ronan played it again, and then again. The grin on his face stretched wider with each replay. After watching it a dozen times in a row, he finally let out a laugh. Yes! The Cochrans are finally getting what's coming to them. Once this video is all over the internet, they won't be able to show their faces in public anywhere in the country. Howard nodded. It's already blowing up on every major platform. The Cochran family's reputation is definitely going to take a massive hit. Perfect, Ronan laughed. Man, watching this makes me feel a hell of a lot better. After a moment, a thought struck him. The Cochrans and I have never seen eye to eye, but it looks like we finally have a common enemy. Howard asked quickly, Sir, are you thinking of teaming up with the Cochrans to go after Charlie? Hell no, Ronan shot back, a flicker of fear in his eyes. I'm not an idiot like the Cochrans. Damon got his ass handed to him on a public street for the whole country to see. Me? I got off light. What happened at Sterling Pharma that day? Yeah, I took a huge loss, but at least I kept it behind closed doors. My humiliation wasn't plastered all over the news. Howard was taken aback for a second. He'd never seen his boss, a man known for his iron will, grasp at straws for comfort like that. Just then, Ronan's excitement returned. This whole fiasco is going to completely change how the Simpsons see the Cochrans. This is perfect for us. That's true, Howard agreed, nodding. This wasn't just a hit to the Cochrans' reputation, but to their perceived strength. I mean, they got taken down like that on their own turf. The Simpsons are bankrolling that shipping deal. They're going to have serious doubts about whether the Cochrans can protect their investment. Ronan grinned. This is honestly the best news I've had in a long time. Seeing his boss in better spirits, Howard relaxed a little and offered with a slight smile. Sir, word is the Cochrans are digging into Charlie's background. I guess they're looking for payback. Ronan asked, So, what's your take? You think the Cochrans can actually beat this guy? Howard thought back to the sheer, unbelievable terror Charlie had unleashed. Honestly, sir, it's hard to say. I just have this feeling about him. Like what we've seen so far is just the tip of the iceberg. Ronan frowned. What? You think even if the Cochrans throw everything they've got at him, they still can't take him down? Howard nodded, his expression serious. A guy like Charlie Wade plays by his own rules. The stronger man always wins in the end. A dozen of their top guys couldn't lay a finger on him. How is the family supposed to fight that? Ronan sneered. Don't forget, the Cochrans have top-tier former Rangers on their payroll. Those guys are trained killers. Their special ops tactics are on another level. Charlie won't stand a chance. Howard countered. With all due respect, could even our best Ranger take down a dozen of Damon's personal bodyguards that easily? Even if he won, it would be a bloody, dragged-out fight. For Charlie, it was a slaughter. With that, Howard rewound the video to the part where Charlie took on all 12 bodyguards. He pointed at the screen. Look, sir. In Charlie's hands, these dozen men are nothing. He drops one with a single punch, another with a single kick. They're like bowling pins. Even a cornered animal would put up more of a fight. But these so-called elite bodyguards, they're completely helpless against him. Ronan's expression darkened. The video confirmed it. Charlie's strength was terrifying. It was like those dozen trained professionals weren't even human to him. Just obstacles to be effortlessly, brutally swept aside. The thought drained the color from his face. He finally looked at Howard, his bravado gone, and asked helplessly, Howard, that $4.5 billion, are we ever going to see a dime of it again? Well, Ronan's question left Howard speechless. How was he supposed to answer that? If he said the money would come back, and it didn't, it would be his ass on the line. But what if it did? Even Ronan himself would duck a question like this. It was a no-win situation. Seeing him just standing there, tongue-tied, Ronan's stomach dropped. He blurted out, You're not telling me there's an 80% chance that money's gone for good, are you? Howard quickly tried to explain. It's not hopeless. I don't think we need to be so pessimistic. It's more 50-50. 50-50? Ronan shot back, his voice thick with anger. What the hell's the difference between that and saying nothing at all? That's useless. Howard scrambled. Sir, there are just too many variables right now. I can't give you a definitive answer. But don't forget, no matter how bad things get, we still have the option to sue. Sue? Ronan jabbed a finger at Howard, his face twisting in disgust. Are you out of your mind? Damon Cochran was publicly humiliated by this Charlie guy and became the laughingstock of the entire country. If I sue him for taking my money, won't we become an even bigger joke when the world finds out we got taken for $4.5 billion? Sir, with all due respect, Howard said, looking sheepish, this is $4.5 billion. We can't just let it go because we're afraid of being laughed at. Our family's entire annual net profit isn't even in the same ballpark. I know. Ronan's voice was heavy with pain. With the downturn, our total net profit last year was barely over $300 million. If things don't pick up this year, it might be even less. Of course, losses were part of the game for families and corporations of their scale. The global economy had been sluggish for 2 years, and the pressure on Ronan Gibbs was immense. In a slow market like this, the healthcare and pharmaceutical sectors were the surest bets for growth. People might put off buying a new car or a house, but they always need medicine. It was why he'd been so determined to go all in on Sterling Pharma. He never imagined he was walking straight into a money pit. Now that $4.5 billion had vanished into thin air, all he could do was kick himself. Seeing how crushed Ronan looked, Howard quickly changed his approach. Sir, you don't need to spiral over this just yet. We're in a different boat than the Cochran family. They have no idea who Charlie even is. We, on the other hand, have a lead. We know the basics. He's the new owner of Sterling Pharma, and he's based out of Oris Hill in the U.S. Worst case scenario, if we need a face-to-face, we can actually find the guy. The Cochrans? They're completely in the dark. They probably can't even find him. Yes! Ronan's eyes suddenly lit up, and he shot to his feet. That's it. I want them to never find him. As long as the Cochrans can't track Charlie down, they'll be the laughingstock of Canada. This is perfect. With that, Ronan snatched a fresh cigar, lit it with a flourish, and took a long, satisfying drag. A wide grin spread across his face. Howard, send a bouquet and a fruit basket to the Cochran family. From me. Tell them it's a sympathy gift. He let out another laugh. You know, just to rub a little salt in the wound. Miles away in Quebec, Adeline sat in her courtyard, waiting for a heavy snow that felt like it might never arrive. Suddenly, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out to see a news alert on the screen. Damon Cochran attacked on Ottawa Street, both arms broken. Adeline's eyes widened. Damon's a big name in the capital, she thought. Who would be bold enough to jump him in the middle of the street? Still, she wasn't interested in Damon or his drama, so she didn't bother opening the article. But just as she locked her phone, the screen lit up with another notification. The headline was similar, but with a new twist. Mysterious attacker's skill called unbelievable, dubbed a god of war by onlookers. As a lifelong martial artist, Adeline was instantly hooked. She had to see for herself just how good this so-called god of war really was. She unlocked her phone and hit play on the video. At first, the attacker was lost in the crowd, and Adeline felt strangely calm since she couldn't get a clear look at him. But when a handful of men were suddenly sent flying through the air, her jaw dropped. She murmured to herself, Damon's bodyguards are no joke. This guy has to be on another level. Then the camera zoomed in, and a sharp gasp escaped her lips. Her hand went slack, the phone slipping from her fingers and landing with a soft thud on the lawn. She scrambled to pick it up. Luckily, the soft ground of the courtyard had cushioned the fall, and the screen wasn't cracked. Grabbing the phone, she stared at the screen, her expression shifting from shock to pure, dumbstruck excitement. Master Wade, she breathed. It's really Master Wade. In that one moment, Adeline was a total fangirl. Charlie was her ultimate idol, and just the sight of him made her heart race with an excitement she couldn't contain. On top of it all, the Charlie in the video was so graceful, so effortlessly cool, so completely in control. The usually composed Adeline shot to her feet, a giddy rush coursing through her. He is so incredible, so powerful, she whispered to herself in awe. That kind of strength, he's a true Grand Master. No wonder he took down Mr. Adams with a single palm strike. With his power, 5 guys like Mr. Adams could attack him at once, and they still wouldn't stand a chance. Completely mesmerized, Adeline watched the video again and again. In that moment, all she wanted was to rush back to Ottawa and find a way to meet him, no matter what. After a few moments, though, she forced the idea down. She knew that after this, Charlie would have the entire Cochran family gunning for him. Not to mention her own father already had a problem with the man. It wasn't just about whether he'd have the time or energy to see her. Just showing up could bring him a world of trouble he didn't need. Adeline looked up at the gray sky. I just hope Master Wade gets out of the city safely, she murmured. Whether she ever saw him again didn't matter. His safety is more important than anything I want. Please, just keep him out of danger. That night, every Maple Crest crew in Ottawa hit the streets. For the first time ever, the whole network came together. Usually they were at each other's throats, competing for turf, starting trouble, and fighting over scraps. But now, they were allies. Everyone joined forces, fanning out across the city to comb it street by street, all to find the man who had taken down Damon. The order wasn't to fight the guy. It was just to report his location to the Cochran family the second they found him. A solid lead was worth $1 million. These low-level gangsters didn't have many ways to make real money. They were either shaking down businesses for protection money on the strip or getting tangled in some other shady deal. But the pay was pathetic. For these guys, a nice bike was the ultimate status symbol, like a prized warhorse to an ancient knight. But most of them were just scraping by and couldn't even dream of affording a high-end motorcycle. They had to get around on foot or take the bus or subway just to show up for a rumble. Cabs? Forget it. The fares were insane. A ride to a brawl could easily cost over $100 before they even got there. Way more than they could afford. That's why they were so desperate for cash. $1 million, even split between a few guys or a few dozen, was life-changing money for any one of them. So all the Maple Crest crews were out in force. They were smart about it, too, using their phones to play the video of Damon's beatdown, trying to match a face in the crowd to the man in the clip. But they kept it quiet, searching only with their eyes, because they knew this guy was a whole other level of dangerous. The plan was simple. If you see him, don't hesitate. Just turn and run, and call the Cochran family while you're getting away. At the same time, a team of the Cochran family's rangers slipped into the night, dressed head to toe in black. They were masters of stealth, able to vanish in plain sight and practically silence their own breathing. They excelled at tracking targets without a whisper, moving like ghosts and leaving no trace behind. These specialists were so good that even the best police canines would lose their trail in a matter of steps. But while they were experts at staying hidden, their raw fighting power wasn't on the same level as an MMA champion or one of the fabled internal masters. Still, you couldn't underestimate their effectiveness in a real fight. Their true strength was in assassination. They were lethal with poisoned daggers, throwing darts, and even blowguns. They lived for the sneak attack, for the single, devastating blow that ended a fight before it even started. If an average fighter let their guard down for a split second, they could walk right into a trap and be dead before they even knew what hit them. The mission for these specialists was to find Charlie and shadow him, completely undetected. Then, once the Simpson family was out of Canada, or before Charlie could leave himself, they were to kill him. But finding him wouldn't be easy, even for a team of special ops experts. Charlie hadn't left a single clue at the scene. Their only starting point was to comb through Ottawa's surveillance system for any trace of him. Later that night, the first shipment of raw materials from Christian Knox touched down in Ottawa. The cargo was rushed off the plane, fast-tracked through customs, and sent straight to the Sterling Pharma production line. Lance and Jude had been at the facility all day, so they jumped right in the second the materials arrived and kicked off production on the MS Gastro Calm powder. Following Charlie's orders, Lance also filed an application with the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, to officially rename the Sterling Quick Soothe powder. That way, as soon as the trial run proved successful, they could start selling the new MS Gastro Calm powder directly in Canada and any other market where Quick Soothe was already approved. While production was getting underway, Isaac had one of his guys drive him to Jude's house to pick up Charlie and bring him to the facility. The second Charlie slid into the car, Isaac asked nervously, "Master, what happened with that kid from the Cochran family?" Charlie frowned. "How do you know about that?" Isaac explained quickly. "Somebody filmed you teaching him a lesson and put it online. It's all over Canada by now. You're going viral." Charlie's brow furrowed. "All over Canada? In just 2 hours?" Isaac replied helplessly. "You know how fast things move. Think about that comedy routine with Finian and Gage Harrison back home. It blew up in a few hours, and we've got over 300 million people in the States." Charlie frowned. "Sure, but that's back home. Is it really that big a deal here?" Isaac nodded. "Master, don't underestimate Canada. It might not be as loud as the US, but it's just as connected. Their video platforms are huge. Kids here spend all day glued to their phones. Half the time they don't even see where they're walking." As he spoke, he gestured to a group of teens on the sidewalk. "Look at them, Master. Total zombies. That one's just walking and staring at his phone, not even looking where he's going. Happens all the time. People walk right into traffic. I'd bet anything they're watching your video right now." Charlie asked, "You have the video on your phone? Pull it up." Isaac quickly unlocked his phone, found the video, and handed it over. "Here you go, Master." Charlie watched the clip, relieved to see his face was blurry. "Good thing the quality is garbage," he said. "It'd be a real headache if anyone I know saw this. I told my wife I was just coming to Canada to help someone with their energy alignment. If she saw this, she'd want to know what the hell was really going on." Isaac reassured him. "Don't worry, this won't get much attraction back home." "You sure about that?" Charlie asked. Isaac nodded. "Positive. Social media is just a cesspool of unoriginal content anyway. You get a handful of people making something new, and the rest is just the same thing ripped off 1,000 times by a bunch of hacks. As soon as one video goes viral, you have 10,000 people copying it." Charlie cracked a small smile. "All right, forget about them. Call Steven. Make sure this video doesn't make it to the US under any circumstances. On it, Master." Under Lance's management, the production line at Sterling Pharma fired up, quickly churning out the new MS Gastrocom powder. Charlie drove out to the Sterling Pharma plant in the Ottawa suburbs to do a quality check himself. After confirming the new batch of MS Gastrocom powder was a perfect match for the one produced in Orris Hill, he told Lance, "Lance, I need you to make sure the Ottawa line keeps this pace. I want this place running 24/7, overtime, extra shifts, whatever it takes. We need to build up a massive inventory and fast." "Got it, Master." Lance Webb nodded immediately. "By the way, Master, When are we planning on officially launching MS Gastrocalm powder in Canada? Charlie shook his head. Don't worry about the launch just yet. First, we need to get the production lines in Montreal, Winnipeg, and Vancouver running just as smoothly and build up a solid stockpile. While that's happening, get an advertising campaign ready for Canada. Hell, for all of North America. I want everyone to know that Sterling's old Quick Soothe powder has been completely reinvented. It's now MS Gastrocalm powder, with an upgraded formula that's at least 10 times more effective. Once the marketing blitz is done, then we start selling. Lance replied quickly. Okay, as soon as I get the other lines up and running, I'll get started on the campaign right away. Charlie grunted. Good. Since the trial run here was a success, we can head to Montreal tomorrow. Lance nodded. I'll leave an engineer here to keep an eye on things. We can head out first thing in the morning. Charlie then turned to Jude, who was standing nearby. I'm giving you a shot at a comeback, Jude. You better take it seriously. Whether or not you get to live a comfortable life from now on depends entirely on your performance in Canada. I'm putting you in charge of these production lines. Run them well. If you don't, I'll cut off your dividends, and you'll have nothing. You'll be living on fumes. Jude had already signed over 90% of Sterling Pharma's shares to Charlie. His remaining 10% gave him no real power. He was a shareholder in name only. As the absolute majority owner, Charlie held all the cards. In other words, if Sterling Pharma pulled in $10 billion that year, and Charlie decided to transfer all the profits to his other company, MS Pharmaceuticals, there wasn't a damn thing Jude could do about it. And if the company's profits were zeroed out, there'd be no dividends for Jude. He'd be left completely empty-handed. His only real option was to work his ass off for Charlie. That way, after Charlie made a fortune producing MS Gastrocalm powder, he might be generous enough to release some of the profits as dividends. That was Jude's only path to a life of worry-free wealth in Canada. After being locked up in that dark farm for so long, Jude cherished his new life more than anything. Hearing Charlie's warning, he scrambled to say, Master, please, don't worry. From this moment on, I am your most loyal man. Tell me where to go, and I'm there. Tell me what to do, and it's done. No questions asked. Charlie gave a satisfied nod. Seeing that the production floor was running smoothly and the quality was on point, he didn't linger. He said to Isaac and Lance, all right, let's head back and get some rest. We leave for Montreal tomorrow. As they left the Sterling Pharma building, Isaac hurried ahead to open the car door for Charlie. Charlie was about to slide into the back seat, but just as he put one leg inside, he stopped cold. He froze for a few seconds, perfectly still. Isaac noticed immediately. Master, is something wrong? Charlie's brow furrowed for just a second before his expression went smooth again. It's nothing, he said. Let's go. With that, he got into the car. The convoy of cars pulled away from the curb and disappeared down the street. At that exact moment, on the roof of a building across from Sterling Pharma, 4 men dressed in black lay prone in a line, their eyes fixed on the street below. Four figures, cloaked head to toe in black. Black hats, black robes, black shoes, and even black gloves. This wasn't just dyed black fabric. While regular cloth absorbs some light, the gear they wore seemed to swallow it whole, like a black hole. The gear wasn't just dyed, it was coated in an ultra-black material designed to reflect almost no light. Its scientific name was carbon nanotubes, and it had a reflectivity of just 0.035%. So low that it was known as the darkest substance ever created by man. Dressed in the stuff, they were practically invisible in the dim light. For stealth specialists like rangers, it was a game changer. When wearing this gear, their ability to stay hidden skyrocketed. Just then, one of the men spoke. Boss, he paused right before he got in the car. I had him in the binoculars, and it looked like he was staring straight at us. You think he made us? The man he called boss answered coldly, bullshit. We're over 800 yards out. That's beyond the effective range of most sniper rifles. Plus, we've got 100 feet of elevation on him. No way he saw us. Huh, no kidding. The man on the far left sneered. This kid might have some moves, some kind of grandmaster maybe, but that internal power crap isn't a superpower. Even if he's strong, there's no way he could spot us from this far out. The first man asked again. Boss, the patriarch said to stand down for now. What's the play? The leader replied, my number 2 and I will track the convoy with powered paragliders. You 2 take the car and wait for my signal on the radio. The other 3 nodded in agreement. A moment later, the leader and his second-in-command retrieved a pair of powered paragliders, also coated in that super black material, from a cache on the roof. The engines whirred to life, and as the black canopies billowed open, the two men launched themselves from the rooftop, melting into the night. Inside the car, Charlie frowned. Just before climbing in, a prickling sensation had crawled up his spine. He wasn't alone. After all he'd been through, the mystic scriptures, the energy crystals he'd absorbed, the rejuvenation pills he practically ate for breakfast, it wasn't just his strength that had been amplified. His senses were sharper than any normal person's could ever be. He'd pinpointed them instantly. 4 figures on a distant rooftop, their concealment perfect, their breathing controlled to an almost inhuman degree. But it wasn't enough. Charlie couldn't help but piece it all together. First, they were lurking, which meant they were up to no good. He was 99% sure they were after him. Second, they were pros, not some back-alley thugs. And third, their skill at concealment was masterful. Putting it all together, only one answer made sense. They had to be Rangers, the infamous Special Ops Masters from Canada, and there was only one person who would hire them to come after him. Someone from the Cochrane family he'd just so thoroughly pissed off. Meanwhile, 2 stealth gliders sliced through the night sky, cruising at around 650 feet. Powered by silent electric engines and specially designed fan blades, they moved like ghosts. Not a whisper of sound, even at full throttle. Using technology to bridge any physical gaps had always been the Ranger way. Back in the day, a Ranger wasn't just a master of special ops. They had to be part chemist, too, cooking up all sorts of weird gadgets. You know the scene from the old movies. The Ranger drops a ball, a cloud of smoke erupts, and when it clears, they vanished. That wasn't just Hollywood magic. It was real. The ball was a homemade mix of a smoke bomb and a flashbang. The bright flash would blind their target for a few seconds, while the smoke gave them the perfect cover to escape. By the time their target's vision returned and the smoke settled, the Ranger was nowhere to be found. Rangers were chameleons, masters of blending into any environment. Just when a target thought they were in the clear, a Ranger could be clinging to the rafters above, standing right behind them, or even submerged in a pond, breathing through a hollow reed. Modern Rangers had woven science and technology into their tactics, taking concealment to a whole new level. The experimental stealth material they wore, and the gliders they flew, were just 2 tools in their cutting-edge arsenal. Hey, think we should pull back a bit? One of the men asked over the intercom. Don't want them to make us. No way, the lead Ranger shot back, his voice full of confidence. We're at 650 feet and nearly a mile out. They can't see us or hear us. Hell, someone could be standing directly underneath us, look straight up, and they still wouldn't see a thing. The Ranger was sure his plan was foolproof. He had no idea Charlie had already made them. Realizing he was being watched, Charlie couldn't help but crack a smirk. It looked like these Rangers were planning on sticking to him. The only question was when they'd finally make their move. Charlie wasn't worried. In fact, a part of him was looking forward to this. He'd grown up on all the Ranger movies, TV shows, and comics, and had always been fascinated by them. Now he was eager to go head-to-head with them, to see if the legendary Special Forces lived up to the hype. He decided to stick to his plan and just keep an eye on the 4 Rangers, waiting to see what they'd pull. 20 minutes later, the convoy rolled to a stop in front of Jude's apartment building. Charlie followed the others into the building and headed for the top floor. High above, 2 Rangers on their gliders circled in the night sky. The other 2 were parked just outside, watching the building. The lead Ranger scanned the block, his eyes landing on the Lorraine Hotel, just a short distance from their target's building. He keyed his radio. 2, you're with me. We'll take the roof of the Lorraine and run overwatch. 3-4, find a concealed position on the ground floor. Eyes on the target, now. 3 voices crackled back over the comms in unison. Copy that. 2 black-clad figures on paragliders spiraled down, their descent nearly silent, until their boots touched the gravel roof of the Lorraine Hotel. The moment they landed, the lead Ranger was on the phone with Damon's father, Arlo Cochrane. Arlo was at the hospital. His oldest son, Damon, still in surgery, having a steel plate set in his body. When the call came through, Arlo answered immediately. Judson, report. The man he called Mr. Sky was Judson Sky, leader of the 4-man Ranger team and heir to one of the 4 great schools of special operations in Canada. Judson was the Sky family's current heir. Rangers had always depended on the patronage of wealthy families to survive. Generations of them had served powerful dynasties and fought for warlords during the war. But in the modern era, true masters of special ops were a dying breed. With a safer society and a stronger rule of law, there was no money to be made in assassinations or sabotage. So the remaining Ranger families attached themselves to the country's elite, becoming, for all intents and purposes, masters on retainer. They called it veneration, but everyone knew what it really was. They were being kept. For Canada's great families, keeping a team of Rangers on the payroll, providing them with money, respect, and a life of luxury in exchange for their exclusive, deadly services was a common status symbol. Judson Sky was the top operative on the Cochran family's payroll. Over the phone, he reported to Arlo, his voice low and steady. "Mr. Cochran, we've tracked down his address. He's in a building across from the Lorraine Hotel downtown. I have eyes on him from the roof right now, awaiting your orders." "Good. Excellent," Arlo hissed, a wave of relief washing over him, quickly replaced by cold fury. He gritted his teeth. "As long as we have him, my son will get his justice." After a beat, Arlo gave the order. "I want you to shadow him. Everywhere he goes, you follow. Wait for my word. But if he even thinks about leaving the country, you kill him." "Understood, Mr. Cochran," Judson replied. "From this moment on, the target will not leave our sight." "Sky," Arlo added, "when this is done, there's a $5 million bonus for you." A faint smile touched Judson's lips. "I appreciate that." Then, Arlo remembered something else. "One more thing. The Simpson family's eldest, Ashton, is staying at the Lorraine. If you can, I need you to put eyes on him too. I want to know everyone he meets with, every call he makes or takes, and every word they say." "No problem," Judson said instantly. "Consider it done." The Lorraine, Ottawa. It was one of the most luxurious hotels in the city, and right now, it was home to Daphne and her brother Ashton. They had adjoining rooms in the hotel's finest suites. Floor-to-ceiling windows wrapped around three sides of Daphne's suite, offering a stunning panorama of the Ottawa skyline glittering against the night. Fresh from the shower, Daphne ran a hand through her short, damp hair, slicking it back. She slipped into a silk nightgown, poured herself a glass of red wine, and padded over to the massive French windows. She settled into a recliner, her gaze lost in the sprawling city lights as her thoughts drifted. Inevitably, they landed on Charlie. A flash of anger returned as she remembered how arrogant and cocky the guy was. But then she pictured him stepping in to protect that innocent girl, and the anger gave way to a grudging admiration. When you're in a foreign country, most people just want to keep their heads down and avoid trouble. In a situation like that, even if you were the one getting hassled, you'd probably just swallow it and walk away. You definitely wouldn't jump into the middle of a fight for a complete stranger. From that angle, the guy was actually decent. He had a solid moral compass, even if he was also a little unhinged. Then again, she thought, when you're that powerful, maybe a little unhinged is par for the course. As if on cue, her phone buzzed on the table, a wave chat message. She opened it to find a link from Ashton, followed by a quick voice message. "Daphne, you gotta see this. What happened tonight is blowing up all over Canada." Daphne tapped the link. The video of Charlie already had over 10 million views and was rapidly climbing toward 20 million. She stared at the screen, stunned. The number of views was staggering, and this was just the beginning. Who knew what the numbers would look like by morning? Just then, another message from Ashton popped up. "Dad's about to start a video conference. Is now a good time? Give me a minute," Daphne typed back. She stood, found a shawl, and draped it over her bare shoulders. Once the call blinked to life, Aiden's face appeared on screen. "Ashton, Daphne, you two get to the hotel okay?" "Yeah," Daphne and Ashton said, nodding in unison from their side of the screen. "Met with the Cochrans yet?" Aiden asked. "Not yet," Daphne replied. "We were supposed to have a preliminary meeting about the partnership in the conference room tonight, but something came up. The Cochran family had a little accident. Damon got hurt, and his father is probably at the hospital with him." Aiden frowned. "What happened? Is this going to mess with the deal?" "Apparently, Damon got jumped by some random guy on the street," Daphne explained. "It sounds like a one-off thing. It shouldn't affect the partnership." "Good." Whew. Aiden let out a sigh of relief. "All right, listen. I need you two to do a deep dive on both companies and pick the absolute best one." With that, the warmth vanished from Aiden's face. "Find the strongest, most aggressive company to partner with. It doesn't matter if it's the Cochran family or the Gibbs family. Once we pick a side, we're going to team up with them and crush the other one." Daphne looked surprised. "Dad, if we pick a company to work with, can't we just focus on the partnership? Do we really need to help them take down another company?" "I saw your grandfather today," Aiden said. "He told me it looks like the Wade family is also trying to get a piece of this ocean shipping pie. So if we choose the Cochran family, the Wades will definitely go with the Gibbs and vice versa." Aiden paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. "What your grandfather is saying is this. If we pick the Cochrans, we join forces with them to take out the Gibbs. If we pick the Gibbs, we team up with them to take out the Cochrans. The bottom line is, we can't leave the Wade family any opening at all." The Wade family wants a piece of this too? Ashton asked. Yep, Aiden nodded. I guess they're just shadowing us. Saw we were moving into this industry and decided to follow. Ashton said coldly. The Wades have some nerve. They can't even get their domestic businesses in order, and now they think they can compete with us in overseas markets? Aiden cracked a small, humorless smile. That's just how the game is played. A big family is no different from a big corporation. You do whatever it takes to steal business from your rivals. He leaned a little closer to the camera. We are always playing a game of chess, constantly trying to corner each other. When they started that new venture, we pulled a bunch of people together to go right at them. Now that we're making a move, they can't just sit on the sidelines and watch. A small smile touched Daphne's lips. Dad, from what I've heard, the current generation of Wades isn't anything special. Besides, they've been keeping a lower and lower profile these past few years. I think they'll have a hard time breaking into the ocean shipping business. I agree with you on that, Aiden said. But your grandfather still wants to be cautious. Ashton smiled. Dad, Grandpa's old. It's normal for him to be conservative, but we don't need to be this worried. I'm with Daphne on this. The Wades won't be able to catch up for a while, and the gap between our families will only get bigger. Aiden sighed, his voice turning serious. 40 years ago, your grandfather said the exact same thing. He thought the Wades had no strong successors and that they would just fade away. But he never dreamed that someone like Brian Wade would come along. A guy so brilliant, he was practically a force of nature, and lift that entire family to new heights all at once. As he spoke, Aiden's expression turned dead serious. You have to remember, a powerful family like ours is like a country. In the long history of a nation's growth, there are times you have to gamble on its future. Right now, we are pouring everything into our ocean shipping business. If the Wade family wants to keep up, they're going to have to take a gamble too. If they take that bet, they still have a chance of keeping pace with us. If they don't, they'll be left in the dust for good. So even if the Wade family doesn't have a strong leader to rally behind, they will definitely jump in and compete with us. And as for us, whether the Wades try to catch up or not, we are going to block their path before they even get started. Your grandfather's entire way of thinking came from his father, who was a soldier in the war. He always said a battlefield isn't like the business world. It's a place of desperation. That's why his business philosophy was so simple and brutal. You don't just beat your opponent, you eliminate them. The way he saw it, it was like preparing to set sail. Say there are 2 boats on the shore, but you only need one. What do? An ordinary person just picks the one that looks better, gets on, and sails away. A smart person does their research and picks the one with the best performance. But a truly ruthless person, they pick the best boat and then they sink the other one before they even leave the shore. The reason is simple. That boat you leave behind, it's a liability. Your rivals can use it to chase you down, maybe even overtake you. But if you sink it, you never have to look over your shoulder. Your competition is just left standing on the shore, eating your dust. It's a brutal strategy, but it's damn effective. Aiden and his kids Ashton and Daphne were born into peaceful times. They'd lived comfortable lives for so long they'd lost the killer instinct of the older generation. But as Aiden laid out his father's logic, a switch flipped in Daphne's mind. Dad, Grandpa's strategy is brilliant, she exclaimed. This doesn't just block the Wade family, it solidifies our influence in Canada. I was worried. The Cochrane and Gibbs families both have their strengths and weaknesses. No matter which one we chose, it felt like we were leaving something on the table. But if we can get one on our side and use them to help us absorb the other, that's perfect. Aiden said, Ashton, Daphne, I need you both to remember this. The #1 enemy of the Simpson family, in the past, right now, and for the next 10 years, is the Wade family. So, no matter what industry we get into, the principle is the same. If the Wade family is already in that field, our first priority is to crush them. If the Wade family isn't in that field yet, we do whatever it takes to keep them out. The old anti-Wade alliance might be dead and gone, but we still have to grind the Wade family into the dust. It's the only way to stop them from ever gaining enough power to form some new anti-Simpson alliance to come after us. You understand? We understand, they said in unison. Aiden nodded, continuing. You need to think bigger, not just about your grandfather's strategy, but his tactics. His generation used to say the business world is a battlefield. Back then, business was just as savage as any war. But the world's been at peace for decades now. People have gotten soft. That killer instinct has faded. The gap between the boardroom and the battlefield has gotten wider and wider. Dad, you're right, Daphne said, her tone serious. Ashton and I will get that killer instinct back. That wolf-like nature. On the video call, Aiden nodded, a look of admiration on his face. "The future of this family rests with your generation," he said. "If you two can reclaim that ruthless streak our ancestors had, the Simpson family won't just be secure, we'll be unstoppable." From that moment on, a single thought consumed both Ashton and Daphne, making the Simpson family the most powerful in the world. What Ashton didn't know, however, was that at that very moment, a dark figure was clinging to the wall outside his room like a gecko. The figure was holding a special sound amplifier, the kind spies used, and was recording every single word of the conference call. The man in question was Judson, the Cochran family's top tactician. Arlo Cochran knew Judson was staying at the Lorraine Hotel, so he'd put him on Ashton's tail. For Arlo, any major deal was just a high-stakes poker game. Knowing your opponent's bottom line, seeing their hand, was the ultimate advantage. The biggest fear wasn't a bad hand. It was going in blind. It's just like poker. If you can see the other guy's cards, you can't lose. Even with a garbage hand of your own, you could just fold early and cut your losses. You'd never fall for a bluff. You'd see right through some poor bastard trying to act tough with nothing to back it up. Half the time, the player with the best hand walked away empty-handed because they couldn't read the table, lost their nerve, and got bluffed into folding. That's why Arlo had been so desperate to see Simpson's hand. But when Judson sent the recording, the contents didn't just make his blood run cold. It froze in his veins. Turns out, Simpson wasn't just holding a good hand. He was holding a royal flush. A goddamn killer. Simpson's strategy was diabolical. If he chose the Cochrans, they'd help him eliminate the Gibbs family. If he chose the Gibbs family, they'd help him eliminate the Cochrans. A cold dread washed over Arlo, and he collapsed into his chair. That old bastard Simpson, he thought, is a monster. Jesus, he muttered to himself. I've been going at it with the Gibbs family for years, but I never once thought about wiping them out completely. Getting the upper hand, beating them down a peg, that was always enough. But this Simpson, he's playing for keeps. He wants to annihilate my family, or the Gibbs family, just to clear the board for the future. And the worst part is, I'm trapped. If the Simpsons pick me and tell me to help them take out the Gibbs family, can I say no? If I refuse, he'll just walk across the street to the Gibbses, and they'll take me out together. Thinking it over, Arlo wiped the sweat from his brow, his mind made up. No matter what, he had to lock in this deal with the Simpsons. He could never let them team up with the Gibbs family. If that happened, he was finished. The reason Arlo was so terrified came down to simple math. The Cochran family's power was nothing compared to the Simpsons. With the recent economy in a slump, the top families there, including his own, had taken a massive hit. Their influence had been completely eclipsed by the titans in the States. Competing on that level was almost impossible now. And that's when the strategy crystallized in his mind. He would do whatever it took to destroy the Gibbs family, just as the Simpsons were trying to destroy the Wades. If the Simpsons wanted to sink the Wade family's ship, then Arlo would have to be the one to sink the Gibbses. Just as Arlo came to a decision, his son Damon's surgery was over. Arlo's heart clenched when he saw his son being wheeled out of the OR by a doctor, both arms wrapped in thick casts. All he wanted to do was crush the bastard who did this. But he forced himself to think rationally. The most important thing right now was locking down the partnership with the Simpson family. If the Simpsons decided to go with the Gibbs family instead, he'd be the one left out in the cold. So he couldn't afford to make any waves right now. For the time being, all he could do was swallow his rage. Good thing Judson had already tracked the guy down and was keeping him under tight surveillance. Arlo was confident the bastard was cornered with no way out. His death was just a matter of time. Damon had only gotten local anesthesia for his arms, so he was completely lucid. Seeing his father waiting for him outside the OR, a wave of emotion, part gratitude, part shame, washed over him, and his eyes instantly filled with tears. Dad, I let the family down. I'm sorry for all this trouble. Arlo waved a dismissive hand and sighed. This isn't your fault. Just focus on resting for the next couple of days. Once you're stable, I'll get you home where you can recover properly. Damon nodded eagerly. Like any kid who's taken a beating out in the real world, all he wanted was the comfort of his own bed. He just wanted to go home and lick his wounds. Just then, an assistant hurried over. Chairman, he said respectfully, Ronan Gibbs sent flowers and a fruit basket to express his sympathies. Ronan Gibbs? Arlo's brow furrowed the second he heard the name. Then he sneered. Knowing that man, he's only sending this stuff to mock me, to rub it in my face. After his daughter got hurt in that competition in the States, I sent a basket to her hospital room just to twist the knife. I can't believe he's already paying me back. Damon, struggling against his casts, seethed. Dad, you know Ronan. He's the type who has to get even. I heard he threw the basket you sent right in the trash. Now he's pulling the exact same stunt on us. It's obvious he's doing this to destroy my reputation. I've lost so much reputation because of this. Who knows what he'll do to humiliate me next? Arlo managed a weak, comforting smile. Son, don't get so worked up. Maybe you're reading too much into it. Maybe he just wants to express his condolences. Damon shot back. Dad, do you really believe that? When his daughter got hurt, what were you thinking when you sent that basket? Weren't you just trying to rub it in his face? Arlo's smile turned into a sneer. You're right. I was. Damon's face fell. The video of Adeline's injury went viral, but it made people respect her. They love her for it. Her fans are still organizing online campaigns, praying for her. But me? When I got hurt, the whole country just laughed at me. I'm a joke. At that, Damon couldn't hold it back anymore and broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. And you couldn't really blame him for falling apart. He'd been Canada's golden boy, the ultimate heartthrob. Countless women had obsessed over him, flooding the internet with posts about their crush. Then, in the blink of an eye, he was brutally beaten in front of the entire country. The whole incident had basically destroyed his reputation, probably for good. And worse, there was almost no coming back from a humiliation like that. Even if Damon had killed Charlie, it wouldn't have changed a thing. The brutal details of the beatdown were already all over the country, burned into the public's mind. A grim look settled on Arlo's face. He was trying to figure out what to say to his son when his cell phone suddenly rang. Arlo pulled it out. Seeing an unfamiliar number, he answered. Ronan's voice crackled through the speaker. Cochran, I hear your boy Damon took quite a beating today. He was laying the concern on thick, but anyone could hear the sarcasm dripping from every word. Arlo's face darkened. Gibbs. I thought I had your number. You get a new one? Nope, Gibbs chuckled. Same number. This is my assistant's phone. Figured if you saw my name pop up, you wouldn't pick up. Arlo's jaw tightened. Ronan was right. He wouldn't have answered, not if he was on his deathbed. The man had actually gone to the trouble of using a different phone just to gloat. Hearing only silence on the other end, Ronan's grin widened. What's the matter, Cochran? Cat got your tongue? Stings a little, doesn't it? Having your son get so publicly humiliated on his own turf. Gotta be embarrassing. Arlo's patience snapped. What do you want, Gibbs? If you've got nothing to say, I'm hanging up. Hold on now, Gibbs said, his voice practically smiling. I just called because I feel for you and the kid. I mean, look, my daughter gets a scratch and the whole country rallies around her. Your son gets his ass handed to him and all of the country just points and laughs. They're absolutely tearing him apart online. Big difference, right? Arlo gritted his teeth. You stay the hell away from me, Gibbs. Don't you ever let me see your face again. Hearing the threat, Ronan just laughed, clearly enjoying himself. You know, Cochran, there's an old saying that fits you perfectly right now. Want to hear it? I don't want to know, Arlo shot back. Go to hell! With that, Arlo slammed the end call button. A second later, his phone buzzed. A new text message. It read, Don't say I didn't warn you. You really need to get that temper in check, or you'll end up just like your son. Damon's young. 2 broken arms are no big deal for him. But an old guy like you break both of yours, you might not bounce back. Arlo's blood boiled. Just then, his phone buzzed again. Another text from Ronan. Oh, and about that saying, a cornered dog will always bark the loudest. A blind rage seized Arlo. With a raw scream, he hurled his phone at the ground, where it shattered into a spiderweb of plastic and glass. Gibbs! He roared. I swear to God, I'll make you pay for this! And in that moment, for the first time in his life, Arlo felt the cold, hard certainty of murder take root in his heart. For years, Arlo Cochran and Ronan Gibbs had been at each other's throats, both in the public eye and behind closed doors. To say they were rivals was an understatement. But Cochran and Ronan were only in their 50s, both born after the wars and raised in a time of relative stability. They just didn't have the same killer instinct as the generation that clawed its way up before them. So while their war had raged for years, it had always been confined to the world of business. Neither had ever seriously considered putting a hit on the other. It was a corporate blood sport, like the rivalry between any 2 major CEOs. They fought tooth and nail, but always stayed within the lines of the law. They might have loathed each other, but they kept up a baseline of professional civility. It was all smiles in public, daggers drawn in private. But after listening in on the Simpson family's video call, something inside Arlo snapped. It wasn't just a shock. It was a wake-up call that sent a chill down his spine. In that single moment, the rules of the game changed. Playing fair was off the table. Now, he wanted Ronan erased. No, he corrected himself. He wanted the entire Gibbs family gone, wiped out. With them out of the picture, the Cochran family would have a clear path to dominating Canada. A mental hit list was already forming. Ronan Gibbs was at the top. Right below him was Charlie, the man who'd crippled his son. Taking out Charlie, he figured, would be the easy part. The man was just some martial artist from the States, and Arlo already had a former Spec Ops guy tailing him. Charlie could be dealt with whenever he gave the word. Ronan, on the other hand, was a different story. The Gibbs family had deep roots in Canada, their power a match for his own. Ronan was never without a full security team, and more importantly, he was a public figure, a pillar of Canadian high society. You couldn't just take him out with brute force. The blowback would be catastrophic. No, the smart play was to find a powerful ally and bleed the Gibbs family dry, piece by piece. First step, knock them off their throne as the #1 family in Canada. Once they were knocked down to a second or even third-tier family, their power would plummet. Who would care if they lived or died then? Taking Ronan out would be child's play. And that's why the alliance with the Simpson family wasn't just an option. It was essential. Bottom line, the deal with the Simpsons had to go through. Failure wasn't an option. Meanwhile, Judson Sky and his 3 guys remained hidden through the night, each holding their position. That night, the 4 of them split into pairs, taking 4-hour shifts to make sure everyone got some rest. They thought their plan was foolproof, but they had no idea Charlie had been onto them from the start. The reason Charlie didn't make a move was simple. He was still working out his own plan. Besides, he was in no hurry to get rid of them. Taking out a bunch of Rangers wasn't ideal, especially since he had other cities to visit. If he dealt with them now, the Cochran family would be all over him for the rest of his trip, and that was a headache he just didn't need. No, it was better to let the 4 of them trail him for now. He'd find the right moment to pick them off, one by one. Charlie was up and ready by 8 the next morning. After a quick breakfast, he found Isaac's motorcade waiting for him downstairs. Darius's work in Ottawa was done, so Charlie arranged for him to fly back to Oris Hill first, making sure things at the law firm kept running smoothly. After dropping Darius at the airport, the convoy, carrying Charlie, Orville, Lance, Isaac, Jude, and the others, left Ottawa in the rearview and headed straight for Montreal. Judson and the other ranger followed in 2 separate vans. At first, Judson figured Charlie was just seeing Darius off at the airport. But to his surprise, the convoy didn't double back toward downtown Ottawa. It kept going, heading straight for the highway to Montreal. He immediately called Arlo. "He's left Ottawa," he reported. Arlo's orders were simple. Keep following, but don't make a move. Meanwhile, Ashton and Daphne were sitting down for their official meeting with Arlo Cochran. It was held at a Cochran family property on Luster Avenue, where Arlo personally welcomed them into his office. Then, he said with grave sincerity, "I'd hoped we could have a quick chat yesterday, but with my son's accident, things got away from me. I apologize if I seemed neglectful." As the eldest son of the Simpson family, Ashton took the lead. "Mr. Cochran, please, don't worry about it," he said with a practiced smile. "We were so sorry to hear about what happened. How is he doing?" Arlo sighed. "He had surgery on both arms. They're in casts now, so it's going to be a long road to recovery." Ashton nodded slightly. "That's terrible. A real shame he had to go through that. If there's anything the Simpson family can do to help, please don't hesitate to ask. We're here for you." Even though Arlo knew it was just business courtesy, he still responded gratefully. "Thank you for your concern, Mr. Simpson." Ashton smiled. "Of course. If this deal goes through, we'll be strategic partners, and my family takes that very seriously. I was on the phone with my father last night, and he's also very concerned about Damon. He wanted me to tell you that if the local doctors aren't up to snuff, he can have a few top specialists flown in from Eastcliff." Arlo looked genuinely flattered. "That's an incredibly generous offer. If the need arises, I will absolutely take you up on that." He paused, then let out another heavy sigh. The way the Simpson family looks out for its partners is impressive. Honestly, it only strengthens my resolve to make this happen. If we get the chance to form a strategic partnership, I assure you, the Cochran family will give it our all. We won't let you down." Ashton nodded with a small, confident smile. "I'm glad to hear it. In that case, why don't we dive into the details?" Just then, Arlo's warm expression turned to ice. "Mr. Simpson, Miss Simpson, Before we go any further, there's one more condition I need to add to our potential partnership. Daphne's brow furrowed. Isn't it a bit late in the game to be adding new conditions? Arlo's tone was sincere but firm. Miss Simpson, this condition has nothing to do with raising the price. It's a personal request, a favor. I want our families to work together to completely crush the Gibbs family. Daphne frowned the second Arlo finished speaking. Wait a minute, she thought. Just yesterday, Dad told us on that video call that he was going to partner with one of them to take down the other. So why is Arlo suddenly here offering to help us crush the Gibbs family? What a coincidence. A little too much of one. Did he actually bug our conference call last night? The more she thought about it, the less far-fetched it seemed. My bodyguard swept the hotel room yesterday and they didn't find any bugs or cameras. But this is Ottawa. This is Arlo's home turf. If he really wanted to listen in, he could have found a way. The same thought crossed Ashton's mind. With Arlo sitting right there, he couldn't risk saying anything, so he just gave his sister a subtle wink. Daphne gave a slight, almost imperceptible nod. She kept her expression perfectly neutral as she turned to their guest. Mr. Cochran, why the sudden desire to completely destroy the Gibbs family? Arlo's voice was thick with rage. That damn Ronan has been undermining me at every turn. Look, normal business competition is one thing, but he made this personal. He insulted my family. He then launched into the story of how Ronan Gibbs had sent flowers and fruit baskets to the hospital the day before, only to call and mock him afterward. Finishing his rant, he cursed, his voice raw with anger. Mocking my son, mocking my entire family. It's too damn much. I decided right then and there, at that hospital, it's him or me. Of course, Arlo wasn't a fool. He knew that just showing up and proposing an alliance to destroy the Gibbs family would raise suspicion. So he intentionally blew the incident with Ronan out of proportion, putting on a performance worthy of an Oscar. The rage, the indignation, it was all carefully calculated. He figured if the Simpsons bought his story, they'd see him as a fellow victim, a natural ally, not a potential spy. It would make him the perfect partner in their eyes. Hearing this, Daphne felt a wave of relief. She bought it. It all tracked perfectly. Arlo's son was in the hospital, and he'd become a citywide joke. That alone would be enough to set him off. Then for Ronan to twist the knife like that, taunting him, it was the perfect trigger. Her suspicion eased. A small, calculated smile touched her lips. Mr. Cochran, why don't we focus on the potential partnership for now, she said. If we can find common ground and agree on the terms, then we can certainly discuss other arrangements. Arlo practically beamed. Fantastic, he said. Miss Simpson, I can assure you, I'm bringing 200% to the table. You won't find a better partner than the Cochran family. I guarantee it. While Arlo was deep in his pitch with Ashton and Daphne, Charlie and his team were already pulling into Montreal. They drove straight to the Sterling Pharma production facility. Christian Knox's medicinal supplies had been delivered 2 hours earlier, so Jude and Lance were already organizing the workers at the Montreal plant to begin a trial run of the MS Gastrocom powder. The trial production went off without a hitch. By 4 that afternoon, the first qualified batch of MS Gastrocom powder was rolling off the assembly line. With that success under their belts, Charlie and the others immediately hit the road for Winnipeg. It was already late by the time they arrived. Isaac had already booked the best hotel in Winnipeg. Charlie could sense it too. The 4 Rangers who'd been on his tail had followed him right inside. After Charlie and his group checked in, Judson Skye, the leader of the 4 Rangers, led the other 3 to the front desk. They booked 2 rooms on the same floor as Charlie. They were smart about it. They took 4 separate rooms, setting up a perimeter that covered the 2 elevators and the emergency stairwells at both ends of the hall. Thanks to the strict safety codes, a building with 2 sets of emergency stairs, a rarity in most places, was perfect for their needs. The setup gave them a net to watch Charlie's every move. As for why they didn't just book the rooms right next to his, Isaac's men had already snatched them all up. Not long after Charlie settled in, he felt the presence of the 4 men drawing closer. The moment he realized they were on his floor, a plan clicked into place. Tonight, he decided, he'd test the skills of these Rangers. For dinner, Isaac and the rest of the group went to the most famous restaurant in Winnipeg for their signature local lobster rolls. After eating, Orville suggested they all go check out Winnipeg's Summit Business District. You guys go ahead, Charlie said casually. I want to take a walk by myself. Orville immediately protested. Master, we don't know our way around here. You shouldn't go out alone. At least let us come with you. Isaac nodded in agreement. Yeah, Master, let us stick with you. Charlie waved them off with a small smile. Nobody in Winnipeg knows who I am. What's there to worry about? Besides, I can handle myself. You guys don't need to worry. Hearing that, Isaac knew there was no arguing. He just said respectfully, "Please, don't go too far. If you need anything, remember to call us." Charlie nodded. "Okay, you guys go have your fun." With that, he headed off on his own. Across the street, in a parked car, one of Judson's subordinates leaned forward. "Boss, are we following him?" Judson sneered. "He's checked into the hotel. He's coming back. The guy's not gonna run." Another man asked, "So we just let him walk?" "No," Sky replied. "We still need a tail. I promised Mr. Cochran I wouldn't let him out of our sight. Number 4, you're on him. The rest of us are going to plant the bug in their room. Let's move." A man in his 30s sitting in the back immediately spoke up. "All right, Sky, I'll tail him." Judson grunted. "Keep your distance, but don't lose him. If anything looks off, you call me immediately. Got it?" "Got it, Sky." Charlie needed to shake Isaac and Orville. He had to work alone if he wanted to get a real head count on the Rangers tracking him. He figured they'd count on him returning to the hotel eventually, no matter where he wandered off to. That meant they probably wouldn't send all 4 men to tail him at once. It wasn't that Charlie was afraid of taking on the whole crew. Far from it. But if he neutralized all 4 of them right out of the gate, Arlo Cochran would be left with no one to send after him. And where was the fun in that? Taking out all his opponents in one fell swoop would just make the rest of his time in Canada dull. That's why he planned to pick them off, one by one. He wanted to dial up the pressure, to really get under Arlo's skin. Just as he'd predicted, as he walked out of the hotel, Charlie sensed only a single shadow tailing him. Perfect. This would be the first to fall. The man on his tail was Malachi Sky, a distant relative of the Sky family. He'd learned special ops tactics from Judson's father back when they were kids, making him as close as a brother to Judson. Among Judson's 4 Ranger brothers, Malachi's raw strength wasn't the greatest, but his real gift was in the shadows, tracking and concealment. He'd been at this for years, and no one he'd ever tracked had managed to shake him. Malachi trailed Charlie out of the bustling downtown and past the dense residential neighborhoods, always maintaining a careful distance, 100, maybe 200 feet back. His presence was a whisper, his aura clamped down tight. Anyone with less training would never have known he was there. Once they were past the city limits, Charlie made for a riverside park. At this time of night, in the cold suburban air, the place was deserted. When he saw Charlie walk into the park, Malachi followed without a second thought. But then, the impossible happened. Charlie, who had been right in his sights just a moment ago, simply vanished after stepping inside. As a master of special ops, Malachi's senses, hearing, sight, smell, and touch, were honed far beyond a normal person's. He could hear what others couldn't and see what they'd miss. His greatest asset was his almost superhuman hearing. In the dead of night, a ranger's ears were his eyes. Within a couple of 100 yards, Malachi could hear crickets chirping in the grass, and even ants skittering from their nests. His hearing was so sharp that he could pinpoint a person's breathing and heartbeat from over 500 yards away. When people hide, they can hold still and keep quiet, but they can't stop their own hearts from beating. It's why no ordinary person could ever escape his detection. But Charlie, who had been right there in his line of sight and hearing moments before, was just gone. No footsteps, no breath, no heartbeat. You could hold your breath for a while, sure, but stopping your heart? That was impossible, wasn't it? This was something beyond human. A jolt of unease shot through Malachi. He knew instantly that this was all wrong. With razor-sharp focus, he slowed his breathing to a dead silence and stood perfectly still, straining his ears for the slightest disturbance. At the same time, his hands moved on instinct, drawing 2 dark throwing stars from his gear. The Shadow Blade was a common weapon for Rangers. Each one was about 6 inches long, with symmetrical blades on both sides, and a short grip that made it look like a miniature dagger. A Shadow Blade wasn't like a dagger. Daggers were for stabbing and slicing up close, but a Shadow Blade was made to be thrown. It was the perfect weapon for a Ranger. Ranger tactics were ruthless and brutal. They didn't do face-to-face fights. They struck from the shadows. Ideally, the target was dead before they even knew they were in danger. That was the entire philosophy. They favor throwing weapons. Shadow blade, darts, blowgun needles, all coated in a lethal poison. A single scratch was all it took. After that, it was game over. A full minute passed. Malachi still couldn't detect a single sign of movement. His hearing was so sharp that he could cover nearly the entire park, and he was sure he was the only one there. Where the hell did he go? Malachi wondered. Did he run? Or is he hiding? If he ran, how did he just vanish? In an instant. Did I look away for a split second? Is that all it took? But if he was hiding, how could he stay perfectly still for a whole minute? I get holding your breath, but your heartbeat? Controlling your own heartbeat? That's practically impossible. If it were the first scenario, the failure was on him. He'd have to report back empty-handed and just be more careful next time. But if it was the second, if this guy was really that skilled, the thought sent a cold sweat trickling down his spine. Malachi's grip tightened on the shadow blade in his hand. He pivoted slowly, silently, his eyes scanning every shadow, terrified the man would suddenly appear. After 2 full rotations, he started to relax, convinced he was alone. He was just about to make a quick exit when he felt a light tap on his left shoulder. Ice-cold terror seized him. Every hair on his body stood on end. He let out a raw yelp, spinning wildly and flinging the 2 poisoned shadow blades behind him. The blades sliced through empty air, flying for a good 30 feet before embedding themselves in a wall. Damn it, where is he? Shock warred with training. Malachi knew he couldn't freeze. In a flash, his hands went to his waist, pulling 2 short swords from their leather sheaths. Clutching the hilts, he yelled, his voice tight with fear. "Who are you? Show yourself!" Just then, he felt 2 distinct taps on his right shoulder. That was it. Malachi almost lost his mind. He lunged forward, spun around with a furious snarl, and hurled one of the swords. It cartwheeled through the air, finding nothing but shadow. There was no one there, not even a whisper of movement. Malachi stood there, stunned, his remaining sword feeling useless in his hand. Then a man's voice slithered out from right behind him, laced with contempt. "So, this is a ranger. I have to say I'm disappointed.